not every day you find an almost completely stock Nissan 350Z, much less an HR or high revving revision like this 2008 model. So when Johnny offered to let me take his for a spin, I immediately took him up on the offer. The 350Z is often criticized for being a bit of a chonky boy compared to Japanese alternatives like the S2000 and Miata, but its powerful V6 engine and longer wheelbase should give it more traditional front-engine rear-drive dynamics. Drifters rejoice. If you want something a bit newer, the 2009 Plus 370Z offers improvements over the 350Z in almost every way, from horsepower and handling to refinement and reliability. That said, it's significantly more expensive and in my opinion doesn't offer a drastic increase in driving pleasure, which at the end of the day is what the Z is all about. So at the current market value of 10 to 15 grand, might the 350Z HR be the sweet spot of Japanese sports cars?
So this car, like I said, is a 2008 model. It has the VQ35HR, high revving. So that revision of the engine came out in 2007. Like its name suggests, it revs higher. It revs to right around 7,500 RPMs. Now this 3.5 liter also makes a little bit more power than the non-high revving model. So this makes about 300 horsepower. And for a car that weighs in the mid 3,000 pound range, it gives it a pretty healthy power to weight ratio. Even though I've moved on to sort of mid-engine and rear-engine cars, I always find myself most comfortable behind the seat of a FR layout car. And especially having owned multiple S2000s and having tracked them, I've always wondered how the 350Z HR stacked up, because these two cars, the S2000 and 350Z, when they came out, they were often cross-shopped. Now the interesting thing is, nowadays the S2000 has absolutely skyrocketed in value past the 350Z. A clean S2000 will run you at least 20 grand nowadays, whereas you can pick up an HR 350 for right around 10 grand. So I'm here today to find out if this car is sort of a hidden gem in the world of Japanese sports cars. And other options like the Miata and the BRZ, they just don't offer quite as much power as a lot of enthusiasts would like. So this car is very close to bone stock, but it does have aftermarket sway bars, Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 tires, a personal favorite value summer tire of mine, and it also has a limited slip differential, since this particular model did not come equipped with one from the factory. So let's push it a little bit here and see how the 350 handles. Very easy to drive quickly. Love these tires, they communicate really well, similar to a Michelin Pilot Supersport. Now the front end definitely doesn't feel as pointy as an S2000, but that's kind of a given since this car does weigh probably 400 or 500 pounds more. And this is why I love a front engine rear drive car right here. I love the fact that you can throttle steer this car. The fact that it doesn't have an exorbitant amount of rear traction means you can really play with that rear end. Now this engine isn't exactly the smoothest six-cylinder in the world. It does have a very rough, sort of truck-like sound to it, but there's no question that it makes a good amount of power in it. It's happy to rev to redline 7,500. Very linear throttle response, good brake response. Transmission, little truck-like, kind of like the engine. It's very high effort and very notchy. More of a fingertips driving experience than I imagined, quite honestly. I thought this car would feel just really ham-fisted compared to an S2000, but I'm honestly pleasantly surprised. Very, very easy to drive quickly. It's not overpowered, so you're not going to be caught off guard when you step on the gas coming out of a corner. But you just feel the ability to adjust your line mid-corner with the throttle, which is really nice, very satisfying. Now I do feel the weight of the car. At mid 3,000 pounds, it's definitely no lightweight car, but the weight also gives it a sense of sure-footedness. It doesn't feel like it's going to skip over the bumps or the cambers in the road. Whereas something like an S2000 or a Miata, because it's so lightweight, it's more easily upset. Very, very easy to heel toe. All the driver controls, very well placed. Yeah, I like this car a lot. I think this is a totally viable alternative to an S2000 Miata or BRZ. If you want a Japanese rear-wheel drive sports car that's more affordable but still gives you that driving pleasure that you get from an FR layout car. In some ways, this kind of feels like a budget E46 M3. It makes a little bit less power. It's not quite as delicate as the M3 or playful, but it gives you, I would say, 80 to 90% of the experience and the performance of an E46 at what, let's say half or even a third of the price. Because these cars share parts with a lot of other Nissan models, maintenance isn't too bad on these. Not that you need to spend that much on maintenance to begin with, because the car is very reliable. From what I've been told, the HR model, so the 07 to 08 model year, gives you quite a bit more engine reliability than the previous DE engine. So all in all, a very, very enjoyable driving experience. I compare it to the Infiniti G35 I reviewed several years ago. I know they're basically the same car, the same platform, but this feels more focused. It's a little bit less luxurious, definitely, but it also gives you more driving pleasure. If you're looking for something comfortable and practical and cheap that still gives you all the thrills of a front-engine rear-drive car, this is not a bad choice.
So while the 350Z isn't the fastest or grippiest car at its price point, Corvette and Miata, it's actually a really good in-between car. And numbers aside, it's one of the most approachable sports cars I've driven in a long time. If you're accustomed to front-engine rear-drive dynamics, you'll feel right at home in this car. For that reason alone, I think the 350Z punches above its weight class and is definitely worth a look if you're in the market for an affordable used sports car. And don't be surprised if clean HR models start following the upward trend of S2000s really soon.